Hello, good afternoon, and good morning. Thank you all for attending, and thank you to Telstra for helping sponsor this event, and to Microsoft who always bring in such intelligent insights to our events. We really appreciate the support. Today's session is on how you can strengthen your security using the latest AI-powered solutions from Microsoft. This session will be 90 minutes, and we've got a lot to cover. Okay, so my name is Benno, and I'm your host today. I've been in business applications and Microsoft ecosystem for more than 20 years, helping organizations transform securely and strategically through the entire Microsoft ecosystem. I specialize in aligning business outcomes with technology investments, leveraging the entire Microsoft stack to help keep you to reduce your risk and to drive scalable growth. We also have Phil Meyer, also known as Philmy. He's a technology strategist and a former Microsoft leader with over 4 decades in IT. He helps organizations leverage Microsoft technologies to accelerate transformations and has expertise in productivity solutions, cloud migrations, AI, and security. In this session, Phil will be offering practical insights to guide and change and unlock growth for your business. And we have our very own Brendan Fazel. He is the Senior Cybersecurity and IT Operations Lead with over 10 years experience across IT professionals, services, and managed services. He is our Director of Information Security and Delivery. He's helped many organizations reduce cyber risks, strengthen resilience, deliver secure, outcome-driven technology. Brendan specializes in cybersecurity, Microsoft security architecture, risk reduction, and service delivery excellence. And we've got John. John Hodgins is the Telstra Azure Partner Domain Specialist. John is an experienced and an adaptable Microsoft sales specialist with a strong background in pre-sales, solution architect, and implementation of IT solutions across a diverse range of industries. John has developed deep knowledge experts in solving many business problems using the Microsoft ecosystem, particularly across modern work, Azure, cloud as well. And we'll be introducing our next piece. And with that, let me just ask John if he doesn't mind giving us a quick acknowledgement of country.
Sure. Thank you, Ben. Well, happy to be here today and talking to this really important topic. But let's start with the acknowledgement of country. At Telstra, we recognise and acknowledge the existing original and ancient connection Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have to the lands and waterways across the Australian continent. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks very much. And you know what, John, you did such a good job of that. How about you give a bit of an introduction to Telstra and the partnership that you make with Exigo Tech?
Look, I just wanted to bring some awareness to obviously why you should partner with Telstra and Exigo Tech for your licensing and your services and your journey on the Microsoft platform. And look, it all starts with obviously how you acquire your products. And I must say, don't underestimate that step. It takes quite a high security posture to run a resale business. So of course, think about that. If Telstra is breached or your CSP supplier is breached, our customers are breached. So let that sink in a little bit and make sure you're making the right choice from an overall holistic security posture, not just plugging in products. But of course, the licensing is one piece. We certainly want to help you, simplify what you buy and how you optimize your Microsoft licensing and how you optimize your cloud platforms like Azure. And with that, we can support those type of journeys, both through self-service portals, support services. Basically the same support service that we get from Microsoft as Telstra is available to our CSP customers. So that's a pretty critical piece. That is quite a large investment for an organization to take on themselves. And of course, both Telstra and Exigo Tech can bring the right programs and funding to really help you, deploy and get value from the license that you have today. So, bring those requirements and opportunities back to myself and Ben, and we can help fulfill those outcomes.
All right. Now, let's go and look at a bit of an agenda. I'll kick off the session with a little bit about Exigo Tech and introduce you to a rather nasty guest, and I'll share that with you shortly. I'll then hand over to Phil Meyer, who will do a deep dive into the Microsoft security stack, including how Gen AI impacts security and how to use M365 to strengthen security and see some security in action. And if we're lucky, Amir, a new friend of mine who I met a couple of months ago, based in Sydney, may give us some insights into the Purview Lightweight Guide, something that he is very passionate about. We'll have a look for his name in the link shortly. Then Phil will hand over to Brendan, and Brendan will give us a bit of an overview on how Exigo Tech leaped into the world of security and the lessons we've learned. Oh, and again, at the end, please help us. The survey at the end is really important for us. We do want to do more and we do want to educate others. So get comfortable. There's going to be a lot of valuable content here. So Exigo Tech started in 2015 and there's about 160 professionals across Australia, New Zealand and across APAC. And we are 100% focused on Microsoft. We cover the entire length and breadth of Microsoft offering. We're a Telstra Platinum partner. We've received awards in innovations. We are also an ISO 27001 compliant company, and we're working on other certifications as well. So what are the biggest threats to your business? Let me share some insights. This is probably one of the most vicious groups in the market at the moment. Scatus Lapsus Hunters, the most prolific ransomware group in the world. This group is said to be behind more than 40 major corporate breaches. This is a combined cyber criminal alliance formed in the mid-2025 by merging three prominent hacking groups, Scattered Spider, Lapsus, and Shiny Hunters. This group has attacked organizations like Qantas, Toyota, Disney, and IKEA with tactics like social engineering, phishing, smishing, which is SIM swapping, voice manipulation, ransomware, and data extraction. This group of mostly young teenagers test and boast about their prowess using the latest tricks and tactics to infiltrate your business and all for bragging rights. Anyone recall a few months ago, the British transport company called K&P Logistics? They were founded in 1865. In July 2025, they shut down permanently after a ransomware attack exploiting a single weak password, leaving 700 people unemployed. What about here in Australia? Qantas lost control of about 153 gigabytes of data, and the ACCC is still mulling over the billion-dollar fines that they will need to pass down. And in this attack, this group exploited OAuth tokens, which is a third-party solution that led to unauthorized access to their Salesforce instance. This was considered a supply chain attack and wasn't a direct Salesforce vulnerability, but it just goes to show you have to think about everything when it comes to security because the baddies out there do. Unfortunately, I do have a little bit of bad news and someone else that I'd like to introduce you to. Meet Shiny Spider. This is the brand new autonomous AI ransomware as a service operator. This new ransomware AI agent has claimed more than 1,500 victims at the end of 2025 and has made over $300 million US, works day and night and no rest. AI is a wonderful thing, but in the hands of bad actors, extremely dangerous. This is why you're here to learn how you can do more to help protect your business and its employees. And I love this quote on the next slide. In today's digital landscape, it's not a matter of if your organization will face a cyber threat, but when. Cyber resilience, not just prevention, is now essential for business survival. Let's look at the cybersecurity landscape in Australia. See here the number of breaches in 2024. And this is from the OAIC, the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. We'll get latest insights in June, but what's the bet that's over 3,000 breaches? We are seeing a 40% increase in mega breaches over the past 5 years from the OAIC, and malicious attacks are the top source. You can read more about the OAIC. There's a link there, you can review that. You should also read the current annual cyber threats report from the Australian Signals Directorate. The ASD has responded to over 4,200 incidents in Australia alone, and around 85,000 cyber criminals were reported in the last financial year. Cybercrimes cost to businesses are rising, with an average SMB, that's under 300 employees, paying around 56,000 Australian dollars, and that's an increase of 14% in their costs. This is real data from ASD. This is not made up. This is factual information that's been reported to the government. I wonder how much is not being reported. And unfortunately, all you need is one incident and you're on a headline, and that's eroded years of trust. And what can you do to fix this? In this section, I'll be talking about the new challenges in cybersecurity in relation to the mainstream use of AI, data breaches from across APAC, and MITRE ATT&CK framework. If you've not heard of that, it's incredible. You should have a look at it, and what organizations need to combat this new challenge. AI is an incredibly powerful tool, and it's an incredible shield to help protect, but it's also an Achilles heel. Just as AI can be used for good, evil exists, and we all need to do more. We don't want your company being on any social meme or any newspaper article. We just want to make sure your teams are ready. What would you do if you were breached? Now, Exigo Tech are here to help, but let's learn a bit about how AI can be an offense and a defensive tool. Attackers can weaponize AI, allow them to do more with more efficiency. Some recent example includes the use of generative AI, creating deep audio and video fakes, using AI to morph existing malware to instantly create zero-day threats, and using AI to find gaps in your organizational security posture. posture. The speed at which they can attack is just incredible, and the use of AI has introduced new challenges to traditional cybersecurity methods. To help defend against these attacks, vendors such as Microsoft are using AI in their security tools to detect anomalies in your environment and behavioral changes in users. They have enhanced monitoring and automated the analysis of events data to help detect zero-day threats quicker. And one common example is where companies capture logs from their applications, authentications, and security devices, which could be tens of thousands a day. By using AI-based tools, you can capture all of those events, which individuals may seem harmless. AI can automate the cross-referencing and analysis of data and find patterns across various logs. You can use AI tools to train users based on their behaviors. You can sit back and get these reports around training that was done on the ongoing test results, and the benefits just go on and on. I don't want to spend too much on this. I just want to give you a bit of a feel here. This is interesting. This is the CSIDB, and here are some of the breaches across APAC over the last 11 months. And most recently, Langley Twig law firm. It's called Anabis, exposed weakness and captured passport scans, financial reports, and employee compensation. Can you imagine the reputational damage by this group, unfortunately? It is a fact. And again, you can click on these. And again, Berhad, based in the Malaysian airport, they faced a cyber attack where hijackers demanded $10 million US. Now, the government there refused to give the cyber criminals any money and instead allocated that funds towards strengthening cybersecurity systems. But can you imagine the disruption that they were seeing? How about here in Australia, where the Legal Practices Board of Western Australia, they were breached in May, and they're still coming to grips with that disaster. If you're not aware of it, there's a program out there called the MITRE attack techniques, and this is a matrix. And it's just, these are some of the things that these AI agents are utilizing to penetrate your networks, from WMI and script interpretation, account manipulation, lateral movements. These are just some of the things. And these are all of the things that you have to think about in your business to protect it. So I hope I've set a bit of a scene. Now, I didn't want to take too long on this. I do want to hand it over to Phil, who's going to talk to us on how Gen AI can impact the security message. Phil, over to you.
Thank you, Ben. I'm leaving that slide there, Ben, because I think it's a really important one to emphasise. Maybe our listeners are aware that this is a test that is run by this group, the MITRE Group, not the MITRE 10 Group, the hardware chain in Australia, but the MITRE Group, who run this attack techniques. They actually test against vendor products. Pleasing, I'm a Microsoft guy, to report that Microsoft Defender technology is the top performing technology in terms of addressing all of those various attack techniques at the moment. So, and that's not just a recent thing. It's actually been about 4.5 years that Microsoft has been the #1 endpoint protection product in that matrix of tests that are run. So thank you for sharing that slide. I think it's really valuable. But we're going to go through these 5 topic areas. Ben's actually done a pretty good job of setting up the impact of AI on security already. Then we'll turn our attention to some of the things that are provided by Microsoft with the help of Telstra and Exigo Tech to help you harden your environment, strengthen your environment, and build that word that Ben used, cyber resilience. So not just the technical, but I would also encourage you to think about the human side of cyber resilience. Because as he also said, if you don't know you've been attacked, you will be attacked. So you've either been attacked or you don't know you're being attacked out there. So build up some resilience in your business. And a really nice piece at the end we'll conclude with, which is this light guide. Yes, Gen AI has absolutely impacted the security message. I'll use a term that some of you, I noticed some familiar faces on the line today that you've heard me use before. We used to get away with what we called or call now security by obscurity. So if you think about that in the context of a private school I'm aware of here in Sydney, who implemented Gen AI for their students, it didn't take very long for a student to ask a question to give me the salaries of all the teaching staff. And because they hadn't implemented the necessary governance, compliance, labelling and security, the answer was evolved. Now, how were the students not able to get that information before? It was too obscure. It was too hard for them to go figuring out SharePoint sites and knowing the document libraries within inside those sites to get that sort of information. But you turn on Gen AI, and Gen AI has the vision and sight that it's allowed to have. And suddenly a student is able to ask those sorts of questions. I'm really pleased that Microsoft has got this incredible commitment to responsible AI. And it's not new. The slide looks new, it looks fresh, and there's a lot of currency behind it. But this actually dates back before the introduction of Gen AI. Microsoft talked about responsible AI since 2008, when some of the first implementations in the Microsoft Cloud were being implemented around AI. And that wasn't Gen AI back then. It was concepts that we might know as machine learning, predictive monitoring, remote management capabilities. And even then, it talked about these responsible aspects of fairness, accountability, privacy, transparency, and so on. Please do look at that link if you're interested in more detail on the principles and approaches that Microsoft provide. I think there's a couple of other bullet points that come through the content there. One is that Microsoft believes in not training models on your data. Your data is your data. Another one I'd probably conclude with out of a number is that copyright is also protected. So in the use of the generative AI platform from Microsoft, as long as there's evidence that you haven't gone and thrown in the Harry Potter novel to the platform, that if you end up producing a novel that's very much like a J.K. Rowling Harry Potter novel, then you're defended by Microsoft for that copyright. So that's elements of the privacy and confidence that comes in using the Microsoft platform. Now, there are elements here in the workplace optimization that come through. Now, many of these messages you would think would resonate probably with things like Microsoft 365, and it is a core tenet of our conversation today. But I also draw your attention to some of the other areas, that idea of employee experience, customer and employee experience on the right-hand side. This is absolutely where we're seeing derivative changes in the reduction of costs, time to market, improvement in customer satisfaction, where generative AI technology is being used beyond the bounds of Microsoft 365 Copilot into that experience, which is where true business processes, customer engagement, sales processes, employee sales, retail, is being using generative AI in those experiences, replacing what has been form-based environments for customers to interact with, form-based environments that employees interacted with, to generative AI experiences founded on a wealth of trusted and verified information. So I really actually like the bottom box, and I think there's more time we could spend talking about that bottom right-hand box in future sessions. Now, just to touch on that attack surface. Now, in the old days, look below the line, your threat vectors. They were the traditional threat vectors that we used to deal with as the IT department, the CISO inside an organization. Business partners, technology partners would look at these, 6 core threat vectors. They haven't gone away. I mean, we've still got to think about a network. We've still got to think about our identities and endpoints. But what's come along is this new surface, these prompts, these responses, the training models, the sorts of organizations, shiny spiders and the like that are out there that are using different tools now against those through prompt injection, jailbreaks, hallucinations. So, hallucinations is a very common one to come across in the world of consumer AI. First thing I'd advocate to you as a business is please stop using consumer-grade AI when working with your business data. Please stop using consumer-grade AI to give you guidance about how to run your business with that data, because that is a clear data leak on the left-hand side. Secondly, you're now making decisions on information that could be hallucinations based on lies that are being told to consumer-grade AI models. You then take that as truth and make your business decision. Please, you need to be using business-grade, enterprise-level AI technology, generative AI technology in your business. And that's absolutely where Microsoft comes in with the Copilot UI and the various different large language models that sit behind that. But let's break it down into 3 simple pieces to consider around data security and how we can reshape the world to provide. Let's deal with data oversharing. And that's the most common thing, is that there's no sensitivity label, there's no qualification of those documents. It's a great starting point. It comes out in the lightweight guide that we'll refer to later. First thing you do is turn on confidentiality on the documents. If you want a really simple approach, just make everything confidential as soon as you start putting generative AI inside your business. The next is worrying about those data leaks that are caused by disgruntled insiders, but also just general staff who aren't aware that if they're using common consumer-based products, they're uploading those files into a repository which is available to lots of other people. And then that's that negligent, just ignorance of the staff. So, to my mind, not only should we be setting confidentiality on documents for starters, but there's a conversation from the executive level down of, please think about what you're doing before you click. Please consider where you're going in terms of your generative AI experience. Please use our business grade sanctioned environment rather than something you use in your home life to do holiday planning in a work context. So that executive level conversation, the executive sponsor, is a key instrument in ensuring that we've got data security in our business too. But there are a fragmented set of solutions out there today. Indeed, by using those consumer grade products, many people will take copies of secure documents. Maybe they're secure in the sense of you want them to be secure, but you haven't applied any governance or control or labeling on them. You take that information and you upload it to these other repositories, the consumer ones, where they're harvested and they're used to train the model. So then you've got duplicate data kicking around the business. We've got siloed and slow investigations that are occurring in the business because of the silo decisions, each of the fragments that are there. You know, you've got your AI that might be in your CRM, for want of a better one, your Salesforce, or your Dynamics 365. There's AI in each of those silos. You've got silos that are coming out from ERP vendors as well, and they've got their AI. I know the silos that are emerging in the call center space too, those call center vendors. They're all creating their own AIs. And so if we've got a problem, we've got to do these investigations, and it could be that there's weak connections between the various different data sources and those data sources themselves being untrusted structured data sources and unstructured data sources. So the net is that we've got a greater burden, we've got ineffective governance. Frankly, it's why we also end up with such a significant number of proof of concepts that fail. So we haven't had that data governance. We haven't had that executive sponsorship that I referred to. So to overcome those fails in proof of concept, we need to consider an integrated approach rather than a fragmented approach to our security and implementation cycle. This is a little bit more on the idea of how organizations are dealing with in terms of the hidden risks of data that need to protect against data loss and the need to investigate those security incidences. And this is where we will move into talking about some of the Microsoft technologies that help us to deal with that. But also some of the security frameworks that exist. There are many frameworks. Some could argue it's a bit fragmented, right? There is a lot of different frameworks out there today. The ones I'm a fan of would be the SMB 1001. I think that's a key one. And I do notice that partners like Exigo Tech are into that, as well as their ISO 9001. They also do Essential 8, and I applaud the Exigo Tech team for embarking on that journey to understand what's required around Essential 8, particularly as it relates to working with their government customers and their non-profit customers, where it's a necessary thing to achieve Essential 8, to be compliant or to get funding from the various different government instruments. My personal favourite in that is actually SIS. SIS V8, the benchmarking there, I find that one is probably the truest in terms of being modern, current in terms of the disciplines, and NIST, which is another one that's in that list. There's many other ones on the slide. Some are healthcare related, some are country specific. But I think the SIS and the NIST to me are the most current and fresh in terms of their thinking. And there's some wonderful work that Microsoft's done in mapping their various different technologies to the benchmarks that are there, and also to Essential 8. And I think we've got a slide coming up on that too, Ben. So as I said, let's now move into that strengthening your security by using, specifically in the Microsoft 365 space. Now, there's many other areas. I was looking at a slide only yesterday from Microsoft, which talked about the biggest scope of the Microsoft commitment to AI across business solutions. There are about 40 components in that slide. There's a lot to digest. And Microsoft 365 was just a small fragment of the scale of investment and development and work that Microsoft is doing. But we're going to focus in on that Microsoft 365, given the theme of this is around the workplace. And to start with, a nice little video that can help you get the tone.
Marker?
The age of agentic AI is upon us, and with it, a new frontier of work that helps you get intelligence in depth, increase productivity, and elevate potential. For us to unlock the potential of AI, we must start with trust, And trust starts with security.
That's why security is our #1 priority at Microsoft. We put it above all else, building products that are secure by design, secure by default, and with secure operations all around.
We deliver an AI-first, end-to-end security platform to address all your needs, from AI apps to platforms to agents, from code to cloud, from external threats to insider risks.
Using generative AI to protect at AI speed and scale, we help defenders proactively protect what matters most.
We make products that work with your existing investments, not ask you to replace them.
Our services help mitigate risks, respond to breaches, and reduce the burden on your operations, so you can focus on what matters.
We work with the entire ecosystem to offer you comprehensive protection.
So today, tomorrow, and beyond, security can create opportunity for you. We know trust has to be earned every day, and we are so grateful for yours.
There were a lot of people in that video, weren't there? Charlie, Vasu, yeah, there were a good number of people that if you had a chance, you might have noticed the titles of each of the individuals. Some of them were around identity management, some were around customer response. I think that it's really great to see that Microsoft has got that investment. Now, you could argue they're individual silos, but I know Vasu and Charlie work very closely to ensure that the synergy and integration between all the different technologies that they've got. Now, I just wanted to put this up because I thought it's a really good report. Now, while it's dated 2025, and I know we're in 2026, it did only just come out in November last year, so it's got some currency to it. It is lengthy. It's about 100 pages long, but you can go to that site and get the executive summary. And if you don't mind, this is what I take away in terms of the unique vantage point that Microsoft brings. Somebody put it to me the other day that Microsoft is actually a security company that's also got a cloud. And it's probably true. The amount of money, the people they've got invested and focusing on security first, and the prioritization that customers have in and around security, it's not surprising the way in which that business, the Microsoft business over the last 20 years has really shifted. You know, from the disasters that were early 2000s when I was there with the Windows XP and Security Essentials to what is now the leading security vendor in the market. Not only because they've got a lot of different products in the security space, but because it's all integrated. And moreover, I think it's some of the other statistics that are represented on this slide. You know, 100 trillion signals a day, that's massive. That's a massive number of signals. And it's all managed using an AI. So those signals that are brought in from the various different services that Microsoft has access to, obviously Microsoft 365, the Azure Cloud, Dynamics 365, the Xbox, the Bing resources, etc. All that information is brought in terms of alerts, attacks, trends, and analysed so that the dashboards in Microsoft go off and they can alert you about zero-day attacks and even run patches for you. You know, the sorts of number of blocks they've got on a daily basis, the number of emails they're dealing and triaging, 5 billion emails screened every day, and the number of staff, 34,000 full-time security engineers employed across the world. Now, they're not engineers that are cutting code. In the main, the number of coders that they have at Microsoft, it's decreased. Why? It's a little thing called GitHub Copilot that helps them do that. These are humans, not agents, supported by agents, but these are humans who are looking for attacks in the dark web. They're running red teams, blue teams. They're doing disaster response. You know, large companies do get attacked, as been kindly pointed out. And that disaster response team can go in and help out. I know they've visited Australia in the past to help out as well. So I really like that report. Please, you don't have to spend hours reading it. You can look at the executive summary, or if you're clever, you can use the notepad in Teams, throw it in the notebook in Teams, and it'll give you a nice podcast summary of that. And there are a number of podcasts that have been done by independents on that very significant report too. This is a quick summary of that integration for you. So Microsoft Security is that end-to-end protection. But in that end-to-end protection, supported by Copilot to help us with AI, we are considering those 5 key tenets. We want to protect against threats. We need to ensure our data is safe. We also ensure that the right devices are being configured into our environment. And core is that identity and access. There's really been a shift over the years and the introduction of cloud, and particularly the Microsoft cloud, in a focus around identity. Is your frontier. It is your edge. It's not VPNs anymore and firewalls anymore. It's the idea that user's identity is a principle. And we're seeing that manifest through the way in which organizations now implement multi-factor authentication, not just in a business context, but even in our consumer world. I was booking some hotels and flights and ferries just before getting on this call for a holiday I'm going to take. Every single one of those services had a way in which it wanted to verify my identity by having a multi-factor form of verification. And I'm sure everybody on this call today has already got multi-factor authentication. And if you don't admit it, just go and get it. All right. And I'm sure the Exigo tech team can help you with doing it too. So this is a key tenet. And I really like this slide, but I don't know if this one came from Amir or it came from the Exigo tech team. I had a version of this I've been using for a fair bit of time from a company called Voyant. But I like the way in which you've made this really quite pretty. Looking at those 8 pillars of security that Microsoft offers, identity, endpoint, apps, I won't read them all, and even the security operations. And then what you'd need to get from other vendors in a fragmented way, a disconnected way, to be able to address what Microsoft gives in their security ecosystem. It really is impressive. And it's why, if I use a number, they are 10 times the size of any other security vendor in investment that they make every year and revenue derived from their technologies. 10 times. So security vendors just popped in your mind. Whoever it is, you'll need to multiply by 10 to identify the number of people, the amount of revenue, the amount of investment they make on an annual basis. It is quite substantial. And applauds to Microsoft for taking this on really squarely, making that investment not yesterday, but 20 years ago to get to where they are as the leader in this space. And that's really become apparent through various different research forums, whether you're looking at Gartner or ADC or Forrester. The more recent one that I've seen come through, and I'm sharing here today, is Cuppington Cole, and it's specifically tailored around leadership and defense in the Gen AI era. And you can see Microsoft is way out there. And I've always liked Palo. Palo's always been a great option in and around some level of security, expensive option, but Microsoft's out there at a very economical price because often they include a lot of this technology as part of the bundle. When you buy Microsoft 365, when you acquire Azure, when you get Dynamics, you're actually getting some really good pieces from day one right in the box from them. Let's just touch, though, on the small business. I believe that many of the people who are attending today are working for businesses with under 300 employees. And it has been something I've noticed since leaving Microsoft some six months ago, that need for small businesses to harden their defenses, to safeguard their data and manage their devices has become, I've really sensed it in meeting small businesses in my new job out there. It's amazing to think that this capability sits inside the Microsoft Business Premium product. If you're not on that today, maybe you're on standard or basic, it's really quite inexpensive to step up to a more mature, more capable product. It's like the cost of a small cup of coffee, a cheap cup of coffee. I think coffee's getting out to like $5 a cup these days. And I think it's about a $2 a week increment, so $8 a month increment to be able to get these advanced capabilities with Business Premium. So if you're on standard or basic, please talk to the Exigo Tech team about getting yourselves up to the Business Premium suite. You also get with that, all these comprehensive solutions, not only your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Teams, which is great, comprehensive and integrated. There is security products included in that product, and they are integrated. So in many respects, it's a bit like buying an integrated car rather than if you were in the world of disintegrated or fragmented and you're buying a car, it's like buying the tyres from one vendor and buying the axles from another, getting the engine from somebody else and the body from somebody else and trying to put it together. In this approach, it all works together. It's like buying a a really safe, secure, shouldn't mention brand names, but I always think of BMWs and Mercedes and the latest versions of the BYDs and the like, giving you those safety, but it's all part of that vehicle, meant to work together, functions together, tested and upgraded to work together, so that one little part works, they're conscious of the other parts to make it all work harmoniously for you, to give you a more secure environment. Now, I did also want to touch on AI, if I may, and the Copilot journey. The Copilot chat, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and the new Copilot Business, which is ideal for any small business customers who've just called the call. Now, I'm probably going to get wrapped over the knuckles from my Microsoft friends for saying this. Not everybody needs Microsoft 365 Copilot, the middle one, that $47 product. Not everybody does. I find that there's a good percentage of the employees are quite effective in using the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, which they get for free. And it does come with included enterprise-level protection and agent management. So in terms of that UI to AI, to do queries against files in the business, to do some levels of summarizations of emails, you can use the Copilot chat, the Copilot that comes in your existing bundle of Microsoft 365 products. Microsoft 365 Business Premium, Standard and Basic. But if you're more of a power user, you want to get even more levels of productivity, like summarizations, creating PowerPoint slides, creating Word documents, doing deep analysis of Excel spreadsheets, that's when you get the Microsoft 365 Copilot embedded in those classic applications for Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, etc. So that's really good. And I certainly made the investment. Well, actually, as a small business, I made the investment in the right-hand side. I bought Microsoft 365 Copilot Business. It only became available in December, but fortunately my Microsoft 365 Copilot license was expiring, so I decided to step in and get the business one as alternate. No different. Works the same, but it's cheaper. It's some $13 cheaper a month for me to use that one hat on the right-hand side. So why Microsoft 365? Because I do meet people who still use ChatGPT out there. They even spend money on ChatGPT Enterprise and Claude Business to run their business. And I really have to question them, and they're kind of overwhelmed when I challenge them in this way. Did you know that in Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, which is part of your Microsoft 365 license, you're getting all those capabilities that you're otherwise paying for with ChatGPT Enterprise and Claude Business? You're paying to get what you think is enterprise-level security, but you've actually already got that in the free product from Microsoft. And I'm not sure everybody on the call is aware of that you can use that Copilot chat that Microsoft gives you in the box. You don't need to go and buy that ChatGPT. You don't.
And one point I just want to add as well, Phil, I saw it and I forgot to add it to this slide. Microsoft did a comparison on companies that are suggesting they're integrating into the Microsoft stack the same way that Microsoft's out-of-the-box implementation does, and it's nowhere near able to reason over the same amount of data. I'll see if I can find the link for the next time we do that session.
There's a good one on LinkedIn that you've drawn that, and I appreciate the feedback. It's good to have a bit of interaction here. Daniel Anderson, who's one of the Microsoft value professionals out there, did a very good job on comparing the ChatGPT extension to Excel to the one that comes as part of the Copilot, admittedly the paid for one. And he just said, you just don't bother buying with the ChatGPT, the OpenAI one. Just use the Excel one. It's superior in so many different ways. You might say, of course, Phil's going to say that. I don't work at Microsoft anymore. I've had the chance to try all these different ones out. And I'm very pleased to say that the one I started with is still the best, which is the Microsoft 365 world. And this is a little bit more detail. I'm sorry the font's a little bit small, maybe for you to read in that. These slides will be made available to you, but it just highlights those tick boxes you get in the free bottom, the included boxes that you've got with Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. So, you know, the grounding, using GPT-4 or even GPT-5 now is your grounding, the chat, the ability to do code interpretation, to do presentation generation, to create agents, lightweight agents. Admittedly, they're lightweight agents, but you can create them inside the Copilot chat experience, some of those agents, but critically, the control system, that Copilot control system, which is that bottom bar, you see you're getting enterprise data protection, agent management with inside those free products. And then you've got the bigger brothers that you're paying a little bit of money for, and I just absolutely can justify that expenditure of $33 a month. Just the time it saves me within the apps, the creation of summarization. Haven't got time to go into it, but the other day I did something in terms of summarizing a PowerPoint presentation and turning it into a table. It would have taken me probably 20, 30 minutes to do that. It did it in a matter of minutes. Done. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Reviewed it, of course, but just such a time saver. This is another aspect of fragmentation. So you've got fragmentation in the security products, but there's also fragmentation occurring in customers. And I really hope you're not one of these customers that has gone and bought into a ChatGPT Enterprise and a Glean and an Agent Space Notebook LLM from Google and a Canva Enterprise. And you go, yeah, I need that because I've got to do better presentations. Oh, I want that because I want to do better searching and access. Oh, and I need that for OD. Well, please, all those capabilities that add up to $180 to $230 is what you get with that $30 investment with Microsoft 365. Now, these are US dollars. I haven't changed the slide from Aussie dollars, but please look what you get in the box with that $30 investment instead of paying $180 to $230 for those components. So there has been some good pieces, and Ben was good enough to include this particular publication, which is the impacts of Microsoft 365 Copilot. It's getting a bit aged. I know Microsoft will refresh this shortly, going back to April 2025. But these are some of the indicative savings. Look, time saved per employee, 12%. What does that mean in hours? Look, to me, hours, easy. Look, I'll be bold, 2 hours a day. I'm a pretty heavy user of the Copilot, the paid-for Copilot, and I'm getting 2 hours back. Now, the clear evidence of that is that in the old days, before I had Copilot, I'd say to my wife at 6 o'clock, yeah, come and have dinner, and I wouldn't be able to get out of my study until 8. I'm out of there by 6. I'm turning on the news, we're sitting there, enjoying that, having a nice meal together. That's 2 hours very clearly sane in my life. And I'm not the only one. I can look it up as a case study on the Microsoft site, Brisbane Grammar, their students, the level of productivity that they've achieved, their staff, 2 hours. They've got that in their documentation. Brisbane Grammar School, it was included in the recent AI tour. It's on a public website. They attest to 2 hours per employee, per student, per day they're saving by turning on the Copilot Microsoft 365. Easy to justify that expenditure, to my mind, very easy. But how do I make all that secure, Phil? How do I make it safe to be able to use this world of Copilot that you are such a big believer in? Well, it comes down to two key products that Microsoft's also now made available at very reasonable prices, one called Purview and one called Defender. So let's have a look what they are. So first of all, your Defender product adds over and above. Yes, you're right. There is a Defender product that comes in Business Premium. Absolutely right. There's a fabulous Defender product that is inside the Business Premium. So why should I get the Defender suite as an add-on to Business Suite? Well, I think it all comes in that first word in the bulleted list, automate. There's a whole lot of automation that comes when you get the Defender suite add-on. So whilst it detected in the Business Premium and provided a level of defense, by getting the Defender suite, it's doing automated investigation, automated response. It's doing risk detection with automatic attack disruption. So that's another higher level of service that you're getting around protecting your endpoints and your users by turning on the Defender suite. Okay, but there's a level of governance that also comes with Business Premium, a level of controls that come in Business Premium. Why should I get the Purview suite as an add-on? Because it automatically provides sensitive data protection. Simply by typing into a document, it will protect that and classify it. Previously, you'd relied on users to put that classification on in the Business Premium. Now, because they're putting a project code name in that's sensitive to the business, they're putting credit card, they're putting personal information in, it automatically classifies that document as confidential or highly confidential based on the guardrails and definitions that you have. And it extends that data loss protection to insider risk. So when a user has downloaded information 2 weeks ago and left the organization, you're getting alerts and assessments. You also get an assessment tool. It will query your data estate, your OneDrives, your email, your SharePoint sites, and come back to you or the Exigo team as your managed service provider to say, we think we need better classification. We need better guardrails. We need better grouping on these sets of documents because this tool, this automated tool called DSPM for AI, has activated to ensure that we meet those regulatory and compliance standards that are so important to ensure that overall data security in the business. Now, the joy is here for a limited time through to June, Microsoft is actually making that Purview Suite add-on available to customers for just $9 Australian per month. Now, you do also need to get the Copilot license, which could be that business license, but for $9, that is incredible. Now, if you thought about having to do same by using the old, or what is still currently Enterprise Suite, you're talking like $40 a month to get the equivalent technology, that enterprise-grade compliance and governance in the box. So this is a really wonderful thing for you to consider taking up in your business. It is a short runway. June 30 expires. So please take advantage of this. Again, talking to your Exigo Tech team and your Telstra team about availing yourself of this 50% discount available on the Purview Suite. Now, I'm just going to play a little video here, which gives you a sense of ultimately when we've got our data security, we've got our posture right, when our endpoint and defense in place, what does the experience become for users inside the business?
Microsoft 365 Copilot works with the data security controls you have in place for file access, labeling, classification, and data loss prevention. Mario Rogers works for Violet Martinez, and both are on the same team at Contoso. Mario and Violet are also members in the same group working on Project Falcon. Now we'll start with Violet, who's been working with the procurement and contract management teams to sell their partner ReliCloud 1,500 Mark 8 quadcopters. And you can see the file is labeled highly confidential with restricted access, and it describes all the terms in the purchase agreement. Because Violet has access to the file, she's able to search for and find it in SharePoint and Microsoft365.com. And of course, Violet can also navigate to the file's location in the Agreements folder of the project site to find the purchase agreement. So now let's look at Mario's experience. Even though he's on the same team and working on Project Falcon with Violet, if Mario tries to search for the Contoso purchase agreement, he won't find it. And there are a few purchasing documents that he does find without sensitive information, but not the one that Violet's working on. And if Mario knows the location of the purchase agreement and tries to navigate to it directly, it just appears as an empty folder to him. And when Mario launches Word on the web and creates a blank document, then prompts Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the Contoso purchase agreement as a reference file, because Microsoft 365 Copilot respects the file permissions of its user, Copilot also cannot access the purchase agreement. Now, if we switch back to Violet's screen, because she has permission to access the purchase agreement, she can use Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the file. And after a moment, you'll see it created a summary of the purchase agreement, and Violet decides to keep it. Then data security controls for Microsoft Purview discover sensitive information found in the Microsoft 365 Copilot generated content. The document is automatically labeled as highly confidential, and policies are enforced to restrict access to the document.
You're on mute, Phil, if you can unmute yourself. You were very kind to do so in case you were going to cough.
Thanks, mate. Got it. Yep. I did notice that I got muted. It must have been getting some playback. But, you know, I was just saying under mute. Now I'm unmuted. That isn't that the sort of protection we want in our organisation? Two employees working, trusting one another, but one of them is working on a highly confidential document. Even though Mario knew about it, he knew where it was, he wasn't able to see it. and that when Violet decided to do some work in generating additional content from that classified document, it automatically classified that document. But moving here to, identity protection. So on the left-hand side, I've put the business premium, the multi-factor authentication. On the right-hand side, I've placed there for you the additional capabilities of Defender Suites in terms of detecting sign-in, high-risk, blocked automation that comes in that. We've also seen with the suite, the Defender Suite, the email protection, steps it up from simply giving self-reporting of suspicious messages to now detecting threats and deleting email from mailboxes and blocking domains in an automatic way. So it's a high level of protection that comes when we get that add-on, the Defender Suite add-on to Business Premium. Continuing the conversation, again, you do get some endpoint protection against ransomware attacks, starting in the box, trying to detect attacks on local files. We look towards, we get with the advanced threat protection of endpoints in the Defender Suite, automatically isolating infected devices. Endpoints, removing those threats from everything and everywhere without waiting for IT to intercept. So there's a lot of automation that's coming in these technologies in the box. Cloud App Security, fantastic add-on. You don't get rid of any alerting or controls with the Cloud App Security inside Business Premium. What you're getting here is that detection of uploads, blocking immediately, enforcing the use of approved applications like OneDrive and what they can do in and out of a OneDrive experience. And maybe a little simple way to show that is a video. Again, this is a very short video we put together, which shows that experience of when you are using something like OneDrive and you want to protect a file. So we have a family photo album, putting it in my USB drive. That's not a problem. My personal USB drive, now take a confidential document, Windows security alert pops up and says, no, you can't put that on a drive, simply because the file has been labeled as such. Similarly here, I'm in a chat experience. I'm going across in my Gmail environment. I'm attaching the project to my personal Gmail. No, you can't take that work document and put it into a personal Gmail environment. So it's a very simple USB or trying to attach a confidential business document into a Gmail experience. You can see how Windows, you can see how the security technology of Microsoft kicks in. Here's another simple example. I'm on a mobile phone. I'm going to be working with confidential document inside a conversation. See what happens here. It's only 10 seconds. I'm going to try and put a credit card number in. That's considered confidential information. It's blocked. So you cannot share that in the Teams conversation because it's considered confidential information. If we move on to full DLP, again, Business Premium's got wonderful capabilities for DLP. Wonderful. So that it detects information you've classified from leaving your organization. It could be credit card numbers, it could be personally identifiable information. But Defender Suite, as the add-on, detects and blocks those uploads and alerts to compliance. So it not only identifies that, it then blocks it. So rather than just as the old days, it existed and let it flow through and you get a warning, it's now saying, no, you cannot do that upload. You are getting a compliance alert. There is an event log established based on the breach of those guardrails, those safety guardrails you've defined in the Defender Suite. And then the insider risk detection, flagging users for investigation. So they've downloaded to their work device, they've downloaded some SharePoint files. Hopefully you've got them classified, but imagine you don't. It's then saying, okay, we've seen that Phil has downloaded these files 2 weeks ago. He's left the business. We need to do an escalated elevation. Now here's some auto labeling. Now this one works with where I'm in a document, an invoice, and I'm now going to type in a credit card number. Watch what happens. Look at that. Top left-hand corner. This has automatically been classified as financial simply because I put a credit card number into that. Now let's have another look at one, a different one. This one's about intellectual property labeling. So we're working with a confidential document, working in a project. I've got a project, and there's a particular product I've called AI 500. Surprise, surprise, AI. But AI 500 is a confidential piece of information that not everybody should see. So let's have a look what happens when I start playing around in Project Jupiter. Here's my motherboard. It doesn't permit content copy or content access. So I'm now working in my design. I put Project Jupiter in. I've copied that diagram in. AI 500, boom. Sensitive content, automatically labeled under classification of Project Jupiter because AI motherboard has been referenced inside the apply sensitivity. And it's put a watermark on the document to say it's confidential. You also notice in the SharePoint site that automatically it's updated the sensitivity label for those documents because that information has been included. So you see that flowing through into all those fun places we're used to going, like SharePoints and OneDrives, and seeing those labels being exposed. So this is just a simple table that tries to summarize those key outcomes that come by adding these suites to your Business Premium family: identity protection, email protection, endpoint, cloud app security, and that data security and compliance, which is a big one. I know it's the bottom row, but to me, that one on the right-hand side is such a critical item in the age of AI, in the Gen AI era. So this is enabling, as Microsoft puts it, tomorrow's defenses today. Predictable, detect in real time, automated responses, and continually optimizing your security operations. Really just to ensure that you are aware of the 5 key pillars that Defender Suite offers. It's that identity access, identity protection, the multi-factor authentication, and ensuring that it's not being spoofed and schmimmed, the device security, the collaboration security when we're interconnecting with other people, with other files, other people's files, and that cloud app security cloud app security and SaaS security. I did want to point out, though, that maybe your organization isn't fully in on the Microsoft security stack today. Maybe you're using a different identity management. Maybe you're using a different device security technology as a fragment. Maybe you're excited about moving to Microsoft, but you've got some contractual commitment to see through on that other vendor. That's okay. The Microsoft security platform does have over 350 connectors today, which can absorb those other existing products, alerts, telemetry, and the like into the Microsoft Sentinel product. So you can see the alerts, you can manage those environments through a common console, which is called Microsoft Sentinel. And of course, when those contracts come for renewal with those other vendors, maybe you say thanks, but no thanks. We've got Microsoft Business Premium and the Defender Suite. We don't need to pay that additional cost to get your components. I did summarize here those additional items. I really like calling out one particular one on the left-hand side, which is that Entra ID Plan 2, which is a multi-level administration layer that comes. And that's an important one under the schema of Essential 8. So if you are a government organisation, you're a non-profit organisation where you're mandated to comply with Essential 8, tick that box, get the Entra ID Plan 2. When they come and do their investigation and audit, you can say, hey, look, no, we're using that. We're good on that particular space to be compliant to Essential 8. All right, touching on Purview, just to give you a little bit more on Purview. There's a lot of capabilities in the Purview suite, as you can see by the dotty line that goes around the outside for data security and data compliance, e-discovery, information protection, records management, which is an attribute that we do find necessary in local government where there needs to be tagging and flagging of particular documents. That records management element is a good one. But I really like the DLP and the DSPM for AI component. It's really good that Microsoft's added that data security posture management for AI, which is a technology either with the help of Exigo Tech or your own organisation could use to determine the posture of your organisation. It does an assessment. It looks across OneDrive, SharePoints, your email platform, your various different users, and determines, obviously using AI, what is the correct posture. It gives recommendations. You can link it into standards like GDPR, EU standards, Australian standards, which are then blueprints that can be attached to DPSM for AI to ensure that you are meeting those government regulatory standards, those third-party independent industry standards, or your own custom standards that you would like to have as the posture in your business. So I'm a big fan, as you can tell, for DSPM for AI. Wonderful that Microsoft's included that in the purview.
And I get this question a lot, Phil, and if you can help as well, DSPM versus secure score. That comes up a lot, and we know
different things.
100% different things, but
yeah, totally.
we don't have a deck specifically on secure score, but it's something that's very interesting that a lot of people can quickly understand their security posture, and it's free to look at. Most people don't even know it's there.
Yeah, no, secure score is great because it does cover broader than DPSM. It's looking at your endpoint protection, your device management. It's looking at that multi-factor authentication and the like in the business. You know, many of penny in the jar, I'm not Microsoft anymore. But one of the things that Microsoft was testing partners on particularly was their implementation of MFA, and that was manifest in the secure score that Microsoft had visibility to. Yeah. Microsoft, interestingly enough, maybe for the benefit of the customers, has also introduced what they call security score, not secure score, but security score, and that is a testing of the partner to ensure that they're responding to alerts in 24 hours, that they do have secure score that meets a certain bar. And there's a number of other attributes I want to go into, but partners like Exigo Tech and Telstra are being tested on a regular basis by Microsoft to ensure that you as a partner have got the right disciplines around identity management, file management, reporting and alerting and servicing customers when it relates around that's such a key topic around security. Look, I've included another little video here. How am I going for time? I've got about 8 minutes left. I reckon I can squeeze this one in. It's around insider risk management. So let me just go to the video. So in this case, we're inside the insider risk management console. And maybe this is something that you don't do, but maybe Exigo Tech does on your behalf. So you can see here, we can see case status. We can see cases that are closed inside the environment. And we can go through to things that, and in this particular case, an individual has resigned, but they have downloaded a set of files to USB drive. They've downloaded over 2,000 files on that date of resignation, which was some time ago. We can look at that content that they downloaded in terms of theft case, and look at that. We've got a Contoso top secret, so we can now open that as a case for investigation. So that'll go back to HR and say, nope, you've got a case. They've downloaded a file, top secret file, to the organisation. So let's have a look at the quick purview, quick start blueprint. And I did want to thank Liz, Amir and Nick for this, because I think it's a really good piece that they've done to help us with this good, better, best conversation. Amir, I think if you're online, maybe you want to talk to this because you were instrumental in creating it. So did you want to come online and say a few words?
He is here, but everyone's locked, so he can't. So he's. I've got in a couple of slides. There's a link, so you can watch it. But next time we'll invite Amir on to have a chat. I apologise, Amir.
So Amir, I hope I do justice to your content here, but I really like your first point on the good, which is just classify everything as confidential. I was at Microsoft when Gen AI came in, and it was like one day we turned up and every document in the organisation was suddenly classified as employee only. It was actually extended employee only, but everything was classified within the environment. You know, setting default labelling for the creation of new files to being that same confidential. It's a nice, simple way to just get to that point where we've got information in our business. Whether we know it should or shouldn't be, it's confidential. And it's not that hard, depending on the policy. If you do need to share it and it's fair to share it, you can adjust the policy and permissions on that file and drop them down to public or public and general if you need to. And then similarly, as a good practice is that DLP policy in terms of blocking sharing labels on those, and then obviously enabling the audit logs. But you can see we can step through to better custom sensitivity labeling, configuring auto labeling. You know, you can't do configuring auto labeling if you're just doing business premium, but if you get the preview add-on, you can do the auto labeling piece. You can set up the email properties for DLP for block, moving through to best, that encryption files via hierarchical labeling systems, service-based labeling, risk-based management, and adaptive learning. And Amir's been great. He's put in also a period of time to implement. Very quick to get to a good state. So let's say, really, you should start with good. Takes about 1 to 2 weeks. I know our friends here at Exigo Tech are there to help you. They can help protect that sensitive information, create those sensitive labels, apply those basic DLP products, set that auto labeling, enabling it across OneDrive and SharePoint as a key step in your pathway to having a more secure environment, particularly as you start to move towards using generative AI in your business, whether that's the free one, Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, or the paid for one, Microsoft 365 Copilot in the apps. So that's a really good piece. Thank you, Amir, and team for doing that. And we have included the link to that blueprint guide in the slide deck as well. Look, there is a long session that Amir and Ben presented some time ago, and the URL for that is here. It will play on YouTube. I'm not going to play it now. I can see some of you fretting, going, oh no, 38-minute video. It's been tough enough to listen to Phil for 40 minutes, let alone watching a 38-minute video. But please do have a listen to that. I had a listen to it, really enjoyed it. They did a great job. Amir did a great job of diving into some of those dashboards in the demonstration. So I commend you to having a look at that. But I'll close off with a bit of how to navigate Microsoft 365 licensing before passing over to Brendan, who's online, to take you through their experience. First site, M365 Maps. Aaron Dinich, accolades to you, mate. You do such a good job, based in Canberra, works with the federal government. He's done a superb job here. He did a really good job the other day talking about Australia, New Zealand innovation and adoption of Gen AI as a public forum. And he talked about what it's like working with the federal government, not easy. But he's also updated with those, as you can see, the little red box around the Defender and Purview. If you click on that, it brings up this screen, and all of those boxes are hyperlinked. So if you want to know more about PIM, Privileged Identity Management, open up the page, drives you in, Privileged Identity Management, which is actually the core component essential to Essential 8 in that Entra ID Plan 2 setup is the PIM component. Plus, you've got your respects access controls. Some I love on the right-hand side, Insider Risk Management, spoken about that. DSPM for AI, absolutely think that's fantastic. And Customer Key, really cool technology there in terms of creating higher levels of security around the files that you want to share with one another. And this is the more comprehensive map, really hard to see, very small font. But this is the detailed M365 map for Essential 8. So you know the pieces that you need to implement to be able to hit that E8 tag. Again, if you're a government or if you're a non-profit, it's mandatory. But I do know, and I'm sure, Ben, Benno, you know that many of your commercial customers look at this as a standard. It is something in Australia. They look at this, and so you work very hard to ensure that they can attest to having, application patching and restricted access to files and application control, all the elements that make up the Essential 8.
100%. No, it's a fantastic way to get started, and it's great insights as well, Phil. Thank you very much. One of the things I love the best, and I'm not sure if you can see on my phone, but you can't actually, but I love showing a customer when we try to take a screenshot, because everyone's got their phones, right? Like, who's not using their mobile phone? We've, thanks to Brendan and the team, he's locked down our security in our phones as well. So we actually can't even take screenshots. It's a pain because I'd love to be on a call and quickly take a screenshot on my mobile phone, but the compliance layer that is required at Exigo Tech to remain compliant is so important to manage those things. That's one of the highlights that I like to just talk to people about, to see how serious they are about security.
And Ben, I like you mentioning that one, because about 4 or 6 months ago, Microsoft introduced in Teams when you're presenting a confidential presentation. So if you'd mark this as confidential content, a watermark automatically appears at the back of every single slide, which is not your name as the presenter, but the recipient's name. So I know that Nat's on the line today. I know Amir's on the line. Their email addresses would be diagonally pasted across the back. So if they had decided to grab their camera and take a picture of that slide, because they wouldn't have been able to screen snip it, Windows Shift S, that wouldn't have worked. So they grabbed their phones and try, well, it's got their email address watermarked in the back of the image that they're taking a picture of.
Yeah.
I reckon that's very cool.
It's
That's
very
really
clever.
Microsoft thinking right through to the detail of providing information protection. But I know that Brendan has too, so maybe it's time to pass over to Brendan. Thanks, everybody, for giving me about 50 minutes of your time. Really appreciate the chance.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Benno. And thank you, John. So my name is Brendan. I'm the Director of Information Security and Delivery at Exigo Protect, and I'm going to talk you through a bit about our security journey, as well as a few customer stories of how we've helped our customers along the way. We have been around for 10 years, and in 2020, we hit a major milestone and we got ISO certified. And we actually did that in both India and Australia. So that means we get audited twice a year, every year. Since then, we are now embarking on our 12th audit. And every year we have to prove to the auditors that we are improving our security posture. Along with that, a few years later, Telstra rolled out the Essential 8 Maturity Level 3 mandate. And we were actually one of the first Telstra partners to make it to Maturity Level 3 against the Essential 8. And we get audited for that every year as well. So you can kind of imagine why I have this hairstyle. But what we have done is put together an offering that allows customers to pick where they want to start, depending on where you are in your security journey. So you could start with compliance. Some customers want to start there. You might be in the finance industry, or you might have a requirement to do ISO. And that, what Phil's gone through, what Ben's gone through, covers everything. All of the Microsoft tech is mapped really easily to those compliance. But if you don't know where to start, another great starting point is actually just vCISO as a service. And that's where we can put together a roadmap with you and go try to align your budget to what is going to reduce the risk or the most amount of risk. Because with security investment, you don't get a return on investment, unfortunately. But what you do get is risk reduction, and it's an ongoing thing. You have to continuously invest. So what you want to be able to achieve is the most amount of risk reduction along the way. Another great starting point, if you're not sure where to start, because as you could see, there's a huge amount of content. There's a lot of stuff to try to consider, is actually putting in place managed detection and response, or a SOC. And this is really useful if you've got a complex environment and you might have a number of initiatives in play, which are going to take you time to uplift your security posture. So we have one customer that was on their journey to migrate everything to cloud. They had one on-prem server left, and we implemented MDR, and it was built over on Microsoft Stack. And very quickly, we picked up that that server was getting absolutely smashed. And we then spoke to the customer and said, okay, let's put some of this other stuff that's in flight on hold, and we'll pivot. We'll finish off the final piece of the cloud migration, because that's the most vulnerable part of the attack surface. So there's many different ways you can approach it. Once you speak to us, we'll be able to align all of the benefits of Telstra and Microsoft and come up with a good starting point. There's a lot to sort of take on this screen, so I'll let you read through it, but there's only really one point that I wanted to touch on, and it's the first question that we generally ask any customers, and that is, are you ready for a breach? Do you have an incident response plan? Have you practiced it? Is it single person dependent, or do you have multiple people that can jump in? It doesn't have to be technical people. They just need to be able to understand the procedure. These days, it's not just about defending against an attack, but it's more about being prepared for an attack. That's one of the biggest things that you can do to reduce risk, and it's a very simple thing. So that's something that we would start with, and then from there we can then continue to roll out all the other layers of defense. So where can we help? We can go and jump into the deep end with you with comprehensive cybersecurity services. Everything you've just seen, we have expertise in, so we can help you through all of that. Or if you've also already got a fairly mature security stack, then Phil did touch on a lot of the stuff going on in the world of AI. And I think 2026 is definitely going to be the year that it explodes even further. We are doing a couple of internal projects which we'll be able to announce pretty soon, which are very exciting. And we can now see like how much of a game changer AI is going to be. But if you haven't got it locked down, if you're not managing it, then it's going to actually be a disservice rather than an enabler. And what we will be asking you is, are you confident that no one in your environment have installed OpenClaw either locally or on a VM? Are you confident, as Phil mentioned earlier, that people aren't uploading confidential data to something like OpenAI or DeepSeek or Grok? You can actually make sure that you have confidence on those things if you implement Microsoft as your governance layer over the AI. And then the final thing, if you want some quick wins on the board, a very quick way to get started is the Zero Trust Security Assessment. Another thing that Microsoft have done is implement the Secure Score. Most businesses still average between as low as 30 out of 100 up to 50 out of 100. We sit above 80, which is not something that's easy to achieve, but it's something that you have to tackle over time. So if you want to go down that path to get some quick wins, we can do a Zero Trust Security Assessment, and then we can guide you through all of the hundreds of technical controls and which ones will give you the best amount of risk reduction for the least amount of complexity. And that will help you increase your mature score the fastest way possible. So that's it from me. I think we've saved the best till last. Over to Ben to wrap it up with the offer.
Thank you. Yes, we've got one free offer. Now, at the beginning, I requested if you could please help with a survey at the end of the session. I've just pasted it in the chat. If you could please complete that for us. Brendan, if you could click on the next slide as well, that will bring up the QR code for those who are able to scan the QR code. Or you can use it in the chat. There's a link in the chat. Please do that for us. We do need to get a good percentage of people here to complete that. It does not take long. It just means that you've actually attended, you've gained some knowledge, you're intending to maybe do some work with Exigo Tech in the future, and hopefully we can help you with your journey into more secure solutions. And also, as a bonus, I was just advised that we are actually giving away a Zero Trust Security Assessment. So if you do complete the survey, you'll get a freebie, and that is a Zero Trust Assessment. It's a full day's effort on our behalf to just do a full assessment of your security posture using the Microsoft Zero Trust Security Assessment. So please, if you found this valuable, scan that QR code, fill in that form. You will then go in the draw to get the you will automatically get a Zero Trust Security Assessment, whether you like it or not. Thank you very much. Thanks to Telstra. Thanks to John. I know you've been on the call the whole time. Very appreciative of you coming along as well. Phil, excellent. Thank you very much. Brendan, thank you for presenting as well. And I think that's it. We're actually a little bit early. We were in such a panic about, oh my God, how are we going to fit it all in 90 minutes? We did a great job. So thank you very much, everyone. We will hang around. We will end this event. And if there's any questions you want to come off chat, you'll be able to do that very shortly. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.
Thank you.